Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Blue Bench Podcast. My name is Gabby Crevitt. I'm the Communications Director with the Montana Democratic Party. Today, we have a very special podcast featuring the Montana Democratic Party's Interim Executive Director, Justin Ailport. Justin has been working for MDP. Justin, is it 10 years now?
Yeah, decade.
He's got lots of tales from the trails. So let's get to know our intrepid leader better today. Thanks again for being on, Justin.
Yeah, you're welcome, Gabby. Thanks for having me.
So, for those of us who don't know you very well, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what your Montana story is? Where did you grow up and how did the state shape who you are today?
Yeah, so I'm Montana through and through, born and raised here. I was grew up in a little town called Drummond. A lot of people probably know it because it's a good place to stop for gas when you're going on I-90 through the state. I grew up working at my aunt's restaurant, the Wagon Wheel Cafe and Motel. Some people might know that too. If they stopped for a burger, I probably cooked it for you or served you at some point. I actually still live here today. I did move away. I just moved back a few years ago, so I could have my little farm and such. But once again, as I often say, I'm proud product of our public schools and our public lands. I joke that I'm like the physical embodiment of the Democratic Party. I'm a poor gay kid from the country that is a conservationist and a proud union member. Um, the states obviously shaped me because I never went really far. The farthest I ever moved away was Wyoming. And it was just across the border from Montana. I was up in Cody, Wyoming, Powell, Wyoming at times. I don't think there's a part of this state that I don't love. I've spent time in all corners and all parts of it. And I love our people that live in this state. I think we're all good and we care about our neighbors. Um, yeah, I guess it shaped me. I grew up in, small town. Montana is tends to be more conservative or culturally conservative. Um, but I grew up in a family that wasn't super political or, didn't vote. We didn't talk politics a lot. Um, but obviously that changed. They all sure vote now and are very engaged. But, even growing up in a more conservative small town, I would still attest that, some of the best people I've ever met in my life were the folks in um, the small town I grew up in, and all of the women at my aunt's restaurant that helped raise me. Um, the waitresses that worked there for 30 or 40 years and took care of our community and took care of me and helped shape me to who I am. But yeah, I spent a lot of time outside, a lot of time doing 4-H. That was my favorite thing growing up. Tri-County Fair and Deer Lodge, where I showed every single animal except a dairy cow, or except cattle. Um, so yeah.
So, how did you find politics or did politics find you?
I think politics definitely found me. I was admittedly a very conservative um pro-life Republican. And and honestly, like I said, my own doing, my family wasn't very political. And then I had met my best friend Dory when I lived in Butte, right? Butte, Montana is a good origin story for a Democrat. Um, and she challenged me on the issue of choice, and nobody challenged me on it, right? So I started doing my own research and really thinking critically about the issue. Um, and oddly, very serendipitously down the road, as you'll probably ask me about, but I found Nancy Keenan, who was running NARAL Pro-Choice America, right? So I was like, there's this strong woman that's my neighbor, grew up down the road in Anaconda from me, and she's out here running a national organization defending abortion rights. Like, this must be something serious. Um, and through my research, I was like, I don't want anybody telling me what I can do with my body, and I don't want to be telling anybody, and I definitely don't want the government telling uh, anybody I know what they can do with their own bodies. Um, so that was my gateway into it, right? And actually, I never had a favorite governor or a favorite president. Nancy Keenan was my first political idol. Just was like, if she can stand up for what she believes in, so can I. Um, yeah, so it just kind of started from there, and I just became a really big champion. My family, I would say, was probably very, and some maybe still are on a personal level, more pro-life at times, not staunchly crazy about it, like, some people are. Um, but yeah, I just started talking about that, right? And I didn't know, I guess I knew at the time it was a big issue. Little did I know how much of a hot button issue it was. So many very exciting family conversations around the dinner table. Um, and then I just continued on from there. My joke is that I was a Democrat first, and then I came out of the closet. So I'm not a Democrat just because I came out of the closet. Um, but I then, you bring LGBTQ issues into the mix, and those are very closely associated with the pro-choice. The Roe v. Wade sits on the shoulders of Lawrence v. Texas. So the right to privacy is important to all of us, whether it's in regards to women's rights, LGBTQ rights, or anybody's right to privacy. Um, so yeah, and then it just stemmed from there, and I just kept getting more involved.
Great. What brought you to the Montana Democratic Party? How did you land with our organization?
Yeah, so I was going to school in Bozeman, going to MSU, and I was involved in everything under the sun. I was that annoying do-gooder. If there was a cause, I was championing it in college. I was just doing it all, trying to do my part to make the world a better place. And I got involved working on local elections, which is, probably city commission, school board is so important to me. And then a real big turning point is back in 2014, I was the volunteer coordinator for Zach Brown's campaign for HD 63. And we just had this incredible culture and like had the most volunteers of any legislative race in the state that year. Just on election day alone, we knocked over 5,000 doors. I was president of College Dems at the time. Um, it just kind of like lit this spark in me of like, wow, like together and with the right, we say vibes these days, we can do a lot of cool stuff and we can make a difference. And we got the youngest person at the time elected. We got one of our own elected to the legislature, which was really, really cool. He's now a county commissioner, still doing good work in Gallatin County. So when that race was over, I was getting close to graduating college and I really wanted to take a semester off. I only had one semester left, and go work the legislative session or try to, I guess. And actually, Senator Denise Hannon from Bozeman changed my life and the trajectory of my life at Wild Joe's in Bozeman. I went in one day for a cup of coffee and she was sitting there and I said, hi to her or whatnot. And I said, yeah, I'm thinking about taking a semester off to try to go work the session. And I don't I don't know if the story goes as she cursed at me. I can't say, but she said, "No, you're not. You're not taking off. You're not doing that." I said, "Well, why not? Like, I'll just finish. I'll do the session, then I'll finish my degree." And she said, "No, you won't." And she said something very wise to me that I share with a lot of people. Is she said, "Politics will always be there. Go get your education. Go do other things that you want. Politics will always be here. There'll always be something to fight and champion for." So I listened, I took her advice, I kind of thought there wasn't an option. She was very serious about it. And she'd probably give me hell if she found out I'd taken a semester off. So I finished my degree and then I was at my very first Mansfield Metcalf. And Nancy Keenan was not the executive director, but she announced the Gail Stoltz Fellowship at that at Mansfield Metcalf. And I remember walking in and like standing in the way back and being like, holy cow, like this is so huge and cool. Like, at the time we had 4 to 5 statewides, all these people that I was like looking up to and never thought in a million years I'd be in the same room with were all there, all up on stage. Um, the speaker that year was, I'm blanking on his name, the Clinton guy, um, James Carville. James Carville was the keynote speaker that year. Um, anyway, so Nancy had raised money to create this thing called the Gail Stoltz Fellowship, which was this opportunity for a young person to get involved in Montana Democratic politics with the hope to learn and grow and stay and be able to stay in Montana because they gained some expertise working at the state party and help continue our cause. So when I was getting ready to graduate, I emailed up the state party to Lauren Caldwell to be like, is there any openings? I didn't know what had been going on at the state party. I didn't know that Nancy had become the executive director. So like on her first week of work, Lauren put me on an email with Nancy and I was like, I'm going to shoot my shot here. So little old me essentially harassed Nancy until she agreed to have a meeting with me. Because I also tried to get Nancy to come every year when I ran Students for Choice in Bozeman. But I don't know who I was thinking trying to get the president of NARAL to come to Bozeman for the Roe v. Wade anniversary every year. Uh, so anyways, I emailed Nancy and then I emailed her again and again. And then she finally replied and was like, "Oh my God, fine. Like when you come into Helena, I'll meet with you." So I just assumed it was a job interview. Later found out down the road, many months later, it was really just like a paid meeting because she was trying to get me off her back. That was a Friday, and I just showed up and was like, "Here's all I know. Here's what I learned. I just really, really want to like work for the Democratic Party, and I will do anything. I just, I just want to be part of this, and I know that we can, make a difference, and we got to fight for the people who need somebody fighting for them." And so then that following Monday, she called me and offered me a job. And I said yes immediately. She was like, "Do you want to know if it pays anything or if there's benefits?" I said, "I don't care. When do you want me to start?" So I ended up starting the next Monday. I moved all my finals up a week. It was because I said yes, not thinking I had to finish my finals in college. Moved all my finals up, got an apartment, moved to Helena, and then 10 years later, here we are.
Wow, that's that's a good story. Can you tell me a little bit about some of your campaign involvement? I know that you've been involved in numerous campaigns throughout the years.
Yeah, so I have since, yeah, 2016 I helped with Melissa Romano's race for OPI, Monica Lindine's race for Secretary of State. And then at the state party, I mean, we support anybody that's on the ticket, any way that we can. Um, in 2016, 2018, I was working at the party as development director. Tester's big reelection. Obviously, there's a whole campaign team in addition to that. And then 2020, I worked Rafe Graybill's attorney general race. Um, and then in 2024, I helped with Shannon O'Brien's OPI race as well. Um, the joke that I always say is I'm not a big fan of kids, but I really believe in public education. Um, the OPI office was held by strong Democratic women for decades. Um, and I can't wait till we get back to that. Our kids deserve a strong Democratic woman as their state superintendent. I know the power of public education. I'm a first generation college graduate. If it had not been for the good public school we have here in Drummond, um, I would not be where I am with teachers who are very supportive. Um, Without that, it takes a village mentality that comes with small town public schools that are really the heartbeat of our rural communities. And so it's something I will always, always, always fight for. Though I think there are many things that can get us a more equal society, and there are many things that can lift people up from poverty and possibly give them a better shot in this world. And education is one of them. So I'm always big on the OPI races. It was obviously challenging as our state has gone, more red. Um, the attorney general's race, I don't know. I could go on. I'm a big fan of all the folks that I've worked with. On that note, I do think something that's nice to include for people to hear is people often have this perception of politics of, the things we see in movies or TV, or we seem disconnected from it in the news. But like, I will share honestly, as a guy that's been on the inside and worked very closely with candidates and statewide candidates, like our folks running for office, I can say for the Democrats, like they are just normal people who care a lot about our state, about the kids in our state, about people like me and you. And like, it's not a talking point. Like, it's true. Like, they are normal people that have problems and joys and fears and all the things just like you and I. And they are blasted into the spotlight and campaigning for an office. And it's a grueling, grueling process. Um, I always say it's like going through the fire with people when you're on campaigns. Um, but yeah, it's some of like the best and hardest times of my career have been working on campaigns specifically. and of my life. I mean, you work so hard for such like an intense amount of, shortened time, with some really good people, who want to do good.
Great. So now as your role as interim executive director, what are some of the issues you believe are most important to Montanans right now, and what is the party doing to address them?
Yeah. Something I hear a lot, the three things that I mean, we're focused on all the things. I don't think we have to abandon an issue or abandon a constituency, nor would I like allow, purposely or allow that on my watch. We are a big tent party. There's lots of crap going on, right? Things that are big for me is I do hope that we can continue to do work on how we improve wages in our state as things become so expensive. And the boom we had in our state around housing, I don't think housing prices are going to go down. I think we need to talk about how wages are increasing. We need to increase wages and how we do that. The Montana I grew up in, you could buy a starter home, um, and do the thing, right? Like have the family and, you know, uh, childcare has never been the cheapest thing, but it's gotten more and more costly. You could afford to live in this state. I mean, I think most people want to be able to have a good paying job, to be paid their worth, be able to spend their weekends playing how we want to play. A lot of people spend time on public lands. Sometimes it's almost funny to me how I love the focus of our public lands. Shout out to the Montana Democratic Party for being one of the two states in the country that has public lands in their platform. But as a poor kid from the country, like that's what we did, right? Like you don't have money to go to the movies and go to theme parks and drive up to Silverwood and, or just things that cost money. You went camping, you went, hiking, hunting, fishing. That's what we did. We need our public lands so, but we needed them then, because that was an affordable option of entertainment. Not to mention just I think it's good for people, right, to get out into the wilderness. So wages are big for me. Like and I don't have the answer, admittedly, but like I want to be talking about how we get people better quality of life here in Montana. Secondly, would be healthcare. This is huge and it's personal to me. Um, Not only, we all have our own health journey, but my mom is the example I always give with her permission is she never had health insurance or healthcare really until she was 55 years old. 10 years ago when Montana Democrats passed Medicaid expansion in this state, is the first time my mom got it. And there's this often misconception that people on Medicaid don't work hard. I would love to argue with the person. My mom works 6 days a week delivering mail in Clinton, Montana, often driving every morning at 5:30, get up at 5:30, drive to Clinton to deliver mail. And wasn't here when I went off to school. Hopefully was home, when I got off. Also worked a second job at my other aunt's restaurant, as a single parent. She worked really, really hard. She missed out on a lot of things because she was working to support her family. Um, Rural mail carriers do not have benefits. They are not part of the union. They do not have health insurance. They do not have retirement. So for 27 years, she worked hard 6 days a week along with a second job and still never had health care until Medicaid expansion was passed, right? And then she could get the care she needed, right? And at a good time as she was, getting older. And as we get older, we all have more health problems. Um, it's wild to me, right? Like I remember being a kid when she got us on, it must have been the kid program for Medicaid. So we had it in case something happened to us, but she didn't have any, right? Um, there's barely enough money to pay the bills and put food on the table. And we've never had any sort of glamorous life, but it's been a good one. And there's not money left over for a health insurance premium, right? Um, she was actually one of the unwinding. She got kicked off of Medicaid. And luckily, and not everybody has this, right? We were able to get her on an ACA plan and one that she could afford until she was able to get on Medicare. But it was very difficult to navigate, right? And the advantage she has is me, that I know a little bit out about how to navigate the system, but most people don't, right? They are not immersed in this like you and I are. And then lastly is childcare, right? And I'm grateful to the parents that I know and the parents on our team that as I mentioned earlier, I may not be the biggest fan of kids at times, so I don't think about childcare. I don't have them personally. Um, But when you're paying thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars a year in childcare, how are you supposed to be able to save money for a down payment on a house that is $100,000 or $200,000 more than it was 5 years ago here in Montana, right? How do you have um, this good, this simple but good life that we all want here in this state? Um, I don't think people want a lot. I think they want a good paying job where they get their worth. Um, they want to not pay every penny they make into childcare. And then if they want to work hard, do their hours, and then they want to go play on the weekends. And when you're playing on the weekends, if you accidentally break your arm or something, that shouldn't bankrupt you. It shouldn't take every penny of your savings. You shouldn't, I just don't. I grew up in a family where the first thought when you got injured was, how are you going to pay for it? That's the question before, are you okay? To a lot of people. So we're constantly fighting for those things. I'll admit I know there's criticism within the party of the issues that we've been focused on. Again, I don't think we have to abandon any issues. Um, but Gabby, you've heard me say I'm a member of the queer community and I need a good paying job. I need my friends to have a good paying job. I need them to have healthcare. Definitely need them to have healthcare. And as they're growing and having families. I want them to be able to afford childcare. I want everybody to feel secure, and so they can also have the time and space to be good members of our community and improve our communities.
What's something people might not realize about what it takes to run a state party?
Uh, Something I hear often is like, God bless you for doing it, right? Uh, Everybody knows politics is crazy. Um, and especially these days, it can be a lot. It's heavy, that we're not talking about light issues most days. I hope and I try to bring laughter and joy to our office because I know how hard this work can be. And at the same time, we all take our work very, very seriously. Um, what people might not expect. I think it's easy. I think part of the thing that politics does is it dehumanizes, it disconnects. And my goal is like I'm trying to get our party always more connected. One thing I think people do often forget is like there are people like me and you, um, people just like them on the other end of the emails and the phone calls, um, that we're not sitting in some ivory tower where it's usually the opposite of me reminding folks we got to take a little time to take care of ourselves. But there are people doing this work that we really do care about it. It's not some like conspiracy theory that we're just like messing around. We care about it deeply. It's why we do it. And I'm proud to know that everybody on our team has a reason as to why they do this work, and has a personal story as to how, politics has impacted their life or continues to impact their life. Um, so that's one thing I think people forget, like how human it is. I don't think they expect it. They think it's cutthroat House of Cards stuff, and it's not. It's a lot of spending time with people who are wanting, who are not even wanting, who are doing the work to push back against the Republican agenda, this conservative rule agenda right now. And they're constantly doing this work, and it's really hard. Okay. And I know that our party needs to toughen up a little bit. And I know that you and I brought some of that energy if anybody reads our weekly columns, and sees some of the stuff we put out. I think we can be tougher, and at the same time, that it's very human and it's really hard because we're dealing with things that we care about a lot. I also think I think people often underestimate how difficult it is to organize humans.
Yeah.
Like that we should just snap our fingers and everybody's just gets in line. And yeah, that's kind of given fascist. That's kind of given things we don't want anyways. But it's just not that simple. Um, it's just a lot of yeah, there's a lot more people, I think, than than people think. Also, I think going back to my point earlier about people realizing like that there's folks on the other end of the phones and emails, like, and candidates are normal people that care a lot. It's one of the things I always try to do is pull back the veil a little bit. Like there is not some, like it's a bunch of normal people trying to improve our state. Like it's that simple. Like there's no conspiracy theory around it. First rule of politics is show up, right? Get involved in your county party. Folks in our county parties vote at our state conventions. Like it is a very direct way of how this party functions. Um, and we always want more and more people involved, right? So maybe that is, I think people think that maybe myself, that I'm just sitting, or the character school, that we're just sitting in some room making wild decisions all day, and it's not. We take our roles very seriously, and uh we're working with a bunch of people that are trying to improve this state.
Justin, what is your vision for the future of the party as the party's current interim executive director?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, and you pointed out at the beginning, like I've been in and around the party for the last decade, doing anything I can to support Montana Democrats and our county parties, our candidates, and all the above. I often say, everybody loves a buzzword, and we use grassroots a lot, and we have for a long time, and I really focus on us truly, truly doing that. One of the things we're working on at the county party is getting full-time year-round organizers and partnering with our county parties in order to do that, so that we have year-round infrastructure, that we have a network of folks always ready to react in a very grassroots, on the ground way to things that are coming our way. Um, we do a pretty decent job of that, of responding, and we have some really great folks that are part of our party that are always working hard, um, reaching out to representatives, showing up to knock doors. We just want to continue to grow that and continue to do that on a year-round level. Like, how do we impact our local politics and our local races more, while continuing to support um, our legislative races and on up to statewide races? The other thing is, like, to my point, people are frustrated and they're hurting right now, and the stuff going on at the federal level is horrible. Um, and I can be guilty of being too serious of a person sometimes. But I do believe in, like, one form of resistance is like joy. I want some enthusiasm. I think we've got to have a cultural shift within our party where people are eager to get out there and stand on what is right. And like, they say stand on business or whatever, right? Like, we have got to have enthusiasm in our party, and people that are just excited to show up for it, right? And I'm not going to BS anybody. I'm sure people have seen the articles and seen the polls, right? We're not in the best standing with the public in this country. And I get the frustration with that. I'm also big on, what are we going to do for people, right? We don't have to abandon any of our principles, but I think we need to be more exact on what it is that we're going to try to do for folks, and make it clear when we go and strive for those things, the Republican Party, is responsible for shutting them down. Um, the more concise we are on the things we're going to do for people, I think the more excitement we're going to bring um, to our party. Beyond that, I just want to make sure that our small but mighty team at the Montana Democratic Party is always available to anybody who needs resources, right? We have incredibly talented professionals like yourself and all the other rock stars that we work with. They're always here and willing to help, whether it be activists or grassroots folks in our counties, our county leaders, our candidates. It doesn't matter. We're here to help. If we can, we're going to help. Um, and then as we head into the midterms, I mean, it's tough in a place like Montana, where we were doing good for quite a while, right? And we find ourselves in this difficult situation that we're in now. I do like to focus on the things we were able to do in this red state that we live in. We picked up 12 legislative districts last year. We were able to um, stop partisan courts and partisan judges. Like, I don't think people fully understand how huge that is. It's happened in other parts of the country. We see what's happening in Texas right now, Ohio, along with other states. We passed CI 128, going back to where we started this. The issue that got me involved in politics is a person's right to bodily autonomy and doing what they want and their right to privacy. We're able to enshrine that in the Constitution in Montana. That is so huge, right? Um, and I know it's not enough, right? And I'm of the school that it never is. Like, we're never going to stop fighting for more and more and more. We want our statewide back. We want the legislature back. We want all these things back. It's going to be a long haul. I think most people understand that. But I think where we can start doing that is by empowering our party at all levels. As you know, I'm a big softie for our county parties. That's where the power is. It rests there with the people and the people in our state. So we're going to be doing everything we can to support everybody that wants to do something to show up to make this party better.
Okay, Justin Ailport, Interim Executive Director with the Montana Democratic Party. Thank you so much for stopping by the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Gabby. I'll be back anytime you want me here.